I grew up in a household, like the average American family, where football is loved and watched frequently. I remember coming home after church on a Sunday afternoon and sitting right next to my dad and watching the Cleveland Browns play. Now, this seemed to be a tradition for our family, as some days we would go over to my grandparents' house and watch the game with my grandfather. I'd sit there as a young child and not necessarily understand what was going on, but would cheer as soon as my dad would cheer. Both my grandfather and my dad had played high school for their respective schools. My dad grew up in Cleveland Heights and played for the Cleveland Heights Tigers and had a scholarship offers from smaller colleges, but decided to go to The Ohio State University to become an engineer and not to play football. My grandfather, on the other hand, played for a D1 school down in Tallahassee, Florida. For his 4 years of college, he would attend Florida A&M and played all 4 years. Now, back then, they weren't just good, they were great. As my grandfather would like to say, the Florida A&M Rattlers were historically black college, or HBCU. So my grandfather's team would compete for the Black National College Championship, along with the other HBCUs. In the 4 years that he played, his team would win the Black College National Championship 2 times. He enjoyed great success, both in his freshman year with an 8-1 season and his junior year with a 9-0 season. He would later become an All-American his senior season, which is one of the most prestigious awards for a college athlete. He told me about these accolades while sitting on his lap. My grandfather would describe almost every game from start to finish. It would amaze me on how detailed his stories were, as he described almost every play. He was able to make me feel like I was watching him play, as he talked about every tackle he would make or when he would get a sack on the quarterback. Both my father and grandfather were both huge influences on my life, so it was only normal that I would play football. There's a part of me that was afraid, but both these amazing men in my life had both played, and both were successful. I was afraid that if I were to get hit, I wouldn't be able to get up again. So for me, there was an unspoken pressure to play. Neither my dad or grandfather forced the issue on me, but I felt that I needed to play to follow in their footsteps. So I played flag football in Cleveland Heights Recreational League for a couple years, but I knew that it wasn't the same as what my dad and grandfather would refer to as real football. The summer of 2009 came, and I was about to enter the 5th grade and decided to try and play real football. I conveyed my interest to my dad, so he took me to a Shaker Heights Fire practice. The Shaker Heights Fire was the football league for 1st through 5th graders. This was my first day of football with a helmet and pads on, and I was more scared than excited. I went through the first couple of drills and instantly wanted to leave. The only thing that I was thinking about was leaving the field, and I kept praying and saying, "Lord, if you get me out of this practice, I will never eat a piece of candy after brushing my teeth again." It's funny looking back at it, because afterwards I came home crying, telling my dad that I never wanted to play another game of football again. My dad would allow me not to return because he could tell that there was no point in me going back if I didn't want to do it. Time would pass, and I would have time to think about if I really wanted to go back to the football field and give it another try. Unfortunately, time is not something that should be wasted. My grandfather would pass away my 6th grade year, and it was devastating for me because as his grandson, I felt like I hadn't even played a game of real football yet for my grandfather to see. After his passing, I really felt the need to play football for my family because to me it felt like it was a tradition that needed to be passed down. I couldn't let this line of football players stop with me, so the next year I was going to play for the Hawken Middle School team. This was my first year actually wanting to play football, and I was committed about this as anyone could be. Unfortunately, before our season even started, I broke my wrist and was sidelined for the whole season. The funny thing about me breaking my wrist was it was only on our first practice with actual pads and a helmet on. We were just doing basic drills and I fell backward and landed on my wrist. I came back the next year and played the whole season. Our team wasn't that successful, but I was just glad to have played a whole year of real football. I finally felt like I had fulfilled my duty, and I was ecstatic. After the end of the season, I started to move away from the idea that I was playing because there was an unspoken law that I would have to play. But I was playing for two reasons, and two reasons only. One, I loved the sport, and two, I was carrying the Burrows name in honor of my grandfather. I had to move away from the idea that just because I was the next boy in my family that I would have to play football. I now want to play football because I want to play football. Not because I feel like I'm the next boy in the family, but it's that I feel the need to be on the field every Friday representing my team and my family. As weird as it sounds, I'm actually glad that I had this mentality as a kid, because without it, I'm not sure I would be playing the game that I love today. I do plan on following in my dad's footsteps and playing the next 3 years of high school, and hopefully I will get the opportunity to follow my grandfather's footsteps and play on a collegiate level. I now have the privilege of standing next to my teammates every Friday night and knowing that they have my back and I have theirs. The best thing about the whole experience is being able to play under the Friday night lights and being able to stand next to your brothers and being focused on one goal, and that's winning.
Win today. It's going to take everybody. So get your mind right. Let's go get a big win today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, win.